There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital, the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no, which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Okay, we have to go through 1 million steps to get on the air. Hello, and all of our friends and cousins and partners in socialism, communism out there. Welcome to the show. As you can see, we are unfortunately Jaredless this week, but he is off being Mr. International, making people smile and have a good time. So we will see him back with us next week at our super secret, top secret clubhouse meeting. For us, it's like a kind of we just get in here and we kind of like, so I hope like you guys get all your snacks and your drinks and your blinkies and everything, get all comfy, because that's what it kind of feels like to us. So that's why we're always fine with, we don't care if we're broadcasting just for ourselves or for like 10 million people. It doesn't really make a difference. When we were on RBN, we had a lot more, a lot larger base of viewers, and now it's less than that, but we don't mind because we enjoy so much what we do and getting to talk to all of you and hear your thoughts and share our own. We wish it was under better circumstances, obviously, but this is how we feel like we can contribute and make an effort to try to get things onto the minds of people who are feeling the same way that we are. We are not afraid to say that we all started off as shit libs, and that's how we ended up here. You get to a point where things are just like things are not gelling, things are not meshing, and you realize that there's not, you get tired of being told by a lot of the liberals that, you have to give it time. It takes time. You just don't understand the process. We don't have any time. The world is dead. It's a dead husk that like 600 people carved out, and now that there is nothing left, they've turned on us in even of a worse way. So we're out of time. No more time. So thanks so much for joining me, keeping me company, and getting all comfy. Loving that. So again, I don't love the kind of things that we have to talk about. Lately, we've had to bring up a lot of people who we would not like to be talking about at all, like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, like as we fundamentally see as enemies. But unfortunately, they have had some, despite our differences, they have had some good points recently. So we're thankfully, it's not a Tucker Carlson day, but we will be talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is kind of like the antithesis of, it's like MTG versus AOC-IA. So, you have that going back and forth, and quite literally here in this last week. So, we got a lot to unpack. I know a lot of you guys probably got really excited when you heard about Trump's diagnosis. Oh, he's got a problem now. He's got a medical diagnosis. Here we go. It's nothing. It's no big deal. It's super common, especially in old men. And he's 79 years old. It's just a vascular issue, a circulation issue. probably hastened a bit by living on Diet Coke and McDonald's. I imagine that hasn't helped his case very much. But I know there was like kind of like a oh damn it kind of a moment with a lot of people going on like, oh, we finally got him. But no, not yet, not yet. But there's a lot more kind of at play going on right now, and I'll unpack this a little bit further as we go. Because I am kind of just, I don't know that I'm the first person to say this. I doubt it. I'm not, even though the left is unorganized and relatively small compared to, the liberal base, the neo-libs who call themselves conservatives, to the, if you want to be semantic about it, that's what it is. But, there's, and then, the MAGA bases and things like this. We're relatively small and ununited, and everybody wants to fight everybody, and everybody wants to be leader at the kindergarten, and that's a big problem that we have on this show. And you can see some of our past episodes. A couple of weeks ago, I went on a pretty big rant about it, so that's fun. Ranting's fun, but it's my show. I can rant if I want to. But anyways, week after week after week here, we've been talking about the Epstein files and the relationship between Epstein and Trump. And which would rather not be again. And I think originally in the conception of the show, it was going to be like more like social issues, like, oh, how can we fix this? What can we do? And then it just ended up being like, what is real? What is not real? Who is doing what at any given time? And you just get sucked into that void of negativity and the daily grind of whatever's going on, and constantly trying to keep up with the news cycle and what's the truth and what's not. For the first time, though, I will say I don't watch corporate news, but you do end up catching something every now and again. But for the first time, I saw a mainstream news piece. I think it was on ABC Nightly News. I want to say last night, I think it was, or the night before, where they actually were finally reporting on Israel being aggressors against Palestinians, in particular a case where they were queuing for food and supplies and then were massacred, and right before that a church got killed, like bombed out, and it's like, oh no, not the church, so like, but in their own way they had at least kind of turned the narrative around. And not because of like, altruism or like of good nature or good spirit. This is because like they have realized that they're following the trends, just like anything that seeks out ratings is doing. They follow the trends and be like, okay, this is deeply unpopular. Nobody's on the side of the Israelis anymore. Everybody, is really not very divided on this issue at this point. So they're just trying to jump on what's hot. But it is a good thing. So shout out to the chat. Hey to Nathan and Time Traveler 2. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. You're keeping me company today. Yeah, so unfortunately we do get stuck in the loop of talking about instead of the social issues and how to fix them and where we want to go with things or where we think things should be going, most of the time ends up being spent talking about whatever Trump has done or whatever, nonsense. Before him, it was Biden, So there's always these nonsensical moments going on that we have to address, unfortunately. So I'll unpack a little bit of that as well coming up in the next hour. I like to mention that, even though I got a little sidetracked, I do like to mention that if you liked our theme song, that was music provided by our own Mr. Mayor Jared. And you can download his music wherever your music is downloaded. And I also have a book coming out later this year, November. It's a horror mystery story, so it's scary and clues that you get to follow. It's called The Big Bad Wolf. I will talk about it a little more progressively as time goes on. And if at the end of the hour I've got a little bit of time, I've got some kind of hopefully I can get to a little bit good community building tip ideas that maybe we can do. Because I got on my solo shows, I've been kind of doing that a little bit, closing out that way. So we'll get there. But on that note, we can, I guess, start getting to the horrible stories of what's going on, because we all know that we're living terribly and everything's miserable. And we know that the people in charge are the reason this is happening, because something that we argue about quite a bit on this show is that we're not super concerned with identity politics. Like, oh, I don't like you, So even if you had a good idea, I'm going to pretend it's a bad idea, right? Like that shit's stupid. It doesn't get anybody anywhere. And that's a lot of the big problem with the left, why there's no organization, because everybody wants to be the person in charge, but nobody wants the responsibility of doing it. And we have a lot of divisive voices, and we have a lot of disingenuous voices. We know the loudest voices who've made millions and millions of dollars off of exploiting the left are disingenuous voices. And a lot of people who are like us, who are not trying to make our names for ourselves off of this, but just really feel like we just can't be quiet about these social issues anymore. Aren't necessarily seeking fame and fortune from doing this. Don't necessarily come off as the loudest voice, which I think is unfortunate. But again, we do this because we feel like it's a need and we want to do it. So thanks again for joining. All right, let's jump right in. Right before I logged on today, started the show, beep boop beep. I didn't get a chance to really explore. It was sort of just a headline situation, but as I said a little bit earlier, probably before I got sidetracked, I don't think that I'm the first person to say this, but I'm going to come out and say this, is that I think that we're on track at this point for a Ghislaine Maxwell pardon. And I say that because they're in a dead scramble here, and it's a complete distraction game. Rename the sports teams back. We got the MLK files. Like, okay, cool. Don't forget about this. But this problem isn't going away. This Epstein stuff is not going away. It just keeps haunting Trump, and it's going to continue to haunt Trump. This week, apparently, a letter came out that he gave Jeffrey Epstein on his 50th birthday with a naked lady drawn on it, and been like, "To our secrets, tink." And like, as someone who draws dicks on like every letter they've ever given anybody, like, I get that, but this is a bad context. Like, this is just, adding more and more fuel to the fire. Like I'm not bothered that he drew a naked lady on the picture to a friend. I'm bothered knowing what that means. Like, there's like literal context there that's really fucking bad. And he literally is like, "To our secrets, ha ha ha," and then he's like, "I've never drawn a picture in my life." And he tried to do a lawsuit, and so we're there again, and all this just mess, because he loves to do lawsuits. But right before coming on, Mamdani is now like, "Oh, I'm going to meet with Ghislaine. I'm going to see what's going on with her and see what she knows," because they're trying every way possible to figure out how they can release the files without incriminating Trump or some of the other living important people. So, like, if they ever release anything at all, it's going to be manufactured, redacted. All kinds of stuff will be like, in the name of national security, blah 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 blah. But it's going to be fake if there's anything ever released. But I do think we are on track for a Maxwell pardon, because I think that's the only real way that they think that they can make this go away. And that will make things 1000% worse, because things now are at a point where I think if decorum were still being observed, not like it has been in the past, probably decade, maybe more, but if we were still following the rules of political decorum, where they at least kind of tried to pretend that they were, experts and lawyers and qualified for the job, that this could have already led to a presidential resignation. But I think we're on track for that, because if she's offered a pardon, if she is pardoned, it would be obviously under the auspice that she not talk. You're not allowed to say anything to anybody, and then she'll like magically get hit by a bus, but her first day out. But that would be something that I don't think that Trump could really escape at that point, because it would show clear guilt. Like, why would that happen? Like, why would you ever pardon someone who is extremely guilty in what they've done in this ring of abuse? There's no question about her involvement. And then it also has raised a lot of questions on all spectrums of political spectrums, which is, excuse me, so these guys just went to jail for nothing then. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, when before he got, he did suicide, they just went to jail for nothing, right? Like, they just didn't do any real crimes. They're just for good measure, yeah? And, excuse me. And So, this is not fooling anybody as it may have in less connected times. So, if they go through with this, and I don't think it's a coincidence that Pambandi is wanting to meet with her at this point, because they're probably going to go through what do you actually know off the record, like one-on-one, like what do you know? How can we spend it? What are you willing to do to divert this away from Trump? And if it comes down to a pardon for someone who we know has a clear track record of guilt here and culpability, then we are going to see this escalate to a situation where I don't think he can recover. But I also don't think he cares. The man is 79 years old. Okay, he's gonna act like he's gonna live forever, and he. Sorry, excuse me. I had a big coughing fit like 2 seconds before I came on the air. So. I don't necessarily feel like he's in this for the long haul. He just wants people to think so. But now that he's losing support, the MAGA support, and really what is MAGA but Tea Party with hats, right? So now that he is losing the support of his own base and calling them idiots and things like this, I don't really think he's really like his heart is that much into it anymore. And I think we're going to see it get worse because he just can't seem to get out from under this problem. The other stuff, Michael Cohen stuff, all the stuff up to this point, the financial crimes, the other sex crimes he was accused of, he was able to make those things go away because they weren't as solid as the Stormy Daniels stuff, the E. Jean Carroll stuff. He was able to make that stuff go away. But what people like he doesn't seem to be able to do is to make this go away. And the things that have come out of his own mouth over the years are incriminating enough, like the fact the grab him by the pussy, even though he wasn't necessarily mentioning underage, but when he in that particular exchange, but later, the statement about Jeffrey Epstein liking younger girls and them being friends, and then all the statements he's made about going backstage at beauty pageants while they're changing clothes. All that stuff is stuff that he has said because he can't keep his goddamn dumbass mouth shut, and we all know this. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm having a moment here. Oh, it's the CIA. They're coming for me. They put stuff in the air. Excuse me. Okay, so let me check the chat here real quick while I'm coughing my head off. Yeah. Nathan Coyote mentions that again, the identity politics. Basically we're on the same page about that. That it's in groups and out groups, and people should not be paying that much attention to those things. And I agree with you. Because that's how nothing gets done, and then that's how the people want to interfere, in charge, want you not looking at them but looking at each other and blaming each other for all of your inequities. And right now, Trump facing all this Epstein stuff that he can't make go away. He now has a health crisis, and he's taking so much heat again from all sides on the handling of ICE and immigration. The big bill is not popular with anybody. Everybody basically hates this thing. And getting it to go through the House of Congress the way it did essentially amounted to bribery and blackmail. There's no two ways about it. That's really how it all works. Like, what are you willing to give? Okay, if you're not willing to give on, the people that were holding out were going to vote for it anyway. They were just waiting to see what they could get out of the deal. That is how it works out. And, people did. People got stuff. They got things out of this. I think it was, Murkowski in Alaska would just be exempt from any of this shit if she voted yes. So that was an option, apparently, on the table. So he's not doing well. He's not popular right now. And when you lose your own base, you basically have lost your footing. You really never win your own base back. And that happens usually in late stages of, kind of when the president is in the last, year, 18 months. We are 6 months in. It feels like a goddamn lifetime, but it has only been 6 months. And, at his age, and now, I think that he's starting to kind of sober up about all this, that things are not really going the way he wants. And if they try to do this pardon, it will nuke this story, essentially, like nuclearize this story to make it so, there is no go away. It will not go away, because it's already not, because there's already so much to it, it's not going away. So I do think they will try it. I'm saying that, just speculatively, because we end up in the speculation zone quite a bit, because we all only know what we know. But based on how things have gone in the past, based on this new set of circumstances, I feel like he does not necessarily feel like he's like having fun anymore with it. And we know that's how it was at the end of his presidency. The first time he wasn't having fun. Everybody was ganging up on him and being mean and didn't like it. But now, back then, he had the support of his base, like, quite rapidly. And even people that weren't necessarily his base, but they were like in like didn't want to do Democrat, they were for him. So there was that. But now he's lost his base. They have people online posting videos of themselves apologizing for voting for him, like that absolves them in some way. Like, why would you even admit it? Just shut the fuck up. Delete your old tweets and shut up. You're not making a good case for yourself here. But at this point, I don't think that there's going to be that much more to this presidency. I just really do. It's 6 months, like I said. I just really don't see him sticking it out for another, several years at this point. He wants you to think that he will, but he's not getting his way. Things are getting worse. And I'm not going to be like, oh, I hope he does, because I do hope he does. But then we're going to end up with Vance in his place, which would just be literally puppet government at that point. If they don't just get rid of him altogether and go straight to Speaker of the House, right? So, like, make him resign and that kind of a shit. Like, I don't know what to do, so, like, off he goes. So there's a couple of options there. And again, speculating here, because we're in the speculation zone, like always. But as this unfolds, I just don't see this going in his favor as things have done in the past. So, keeping that in mind, we will go to our next topic, which is the same topic, basically. But I know everybody at this point has heard about the Colbert firing, and you wonder what that has to do with Trump, and everything, actually. So first of all, pretty much most of the people, I think, like, in the world, or in the country at least, primarily on the left, would be like, so fucking what? That show was dog shit. And like maybe one of the criminally bad shows that there is out there, where it's like 99% of really bad masturbatory humor. It's just self-serving nonsense, and then like a couple of minutes left over for guests. It's a really bad show. Okay, quality-wise, really bad. So if anyone ever canceled a show, a network, just under normal circumstances, it would very much be a cancelable show. Okay, it really fucking sucks. And it's not hurting my feelings or a lot of people on the left personally, because it's a bad show. Colbert essentially made a name for himself mocking the people that he showed himself to be. And now we were looking at this like, well, you have a garbage show and you and your writers are propagandists. Good riddance, right? You just don't realize they're propagandists because it's such a shitty show and they're so bad at it. But the liberal reaction was, let's do a protest outside the theater and show them how much we love him, and all this other shit going on, and all these other people coming up to support him, and blah, blah, blah. And it's mostly just nighttime people afraid of losing their jobs. But the fact of it is there is a bigger narrative here, which you hate to hear. And it's not a conspiracy. It's just a true fact. Right now, as we speak, Paramount, which owns like almost all of everything you see ever, is in a merger discussion with a company called Skydance. And when big companies merge, they need to have, for some ungodly reason, it's like, oh, government can't be in business ever. No, we're not allowed to do that. Don't do that, except if it's going to be a giant merger. So, all right. So if a couple companies or a few companies want to merge, which basically just means one eats up the other, if that happens, it needs approval of the president. No, man, not just Trump in this, like any president at any time. It's a stupid rule. It really should, ultimately be like, if anything, if there's any governmental action, it should be Congress, because there should be, or a court should, like with a judge, should decide, like, is this breaking antitrust rules? Like, does this make this one company way too powerful? Should it be broken into smaller companies, and so on and so forth? The argument that's behind a lot of the tech companies already, like, should Facebook, every other, survey I get from YouGov is like, should Facebook be broken into smaller companies? Like all the time. This is like a kind of a no-brainer, right? So while this mega merger is underway, so there's been some other things that have happened. There was a segment on 60 Minutes that Trump insisted was heavily edited. They basically proved it was a minor edit, if anything. Trump sued. They paid it. It was like $60 million, right? Like, so in these like big standards, that's not much, but it sounds like a lot to all of us who are fucking starving out here, right? But so it sounds like a lot to them. It's nothing, but that's not the point. So there was that, and then there's all these things that have kind of added up to where it's been very suspicious, because these mergers usually take a very long time. There's a lot of lawyers and a lot of talking, and it's like a reverse divorce, basically. Not a marriage exactly, but it's like, when you go into arbitration of divorce, and then you got to sort of, if you got a lot of assets, you got to argue over who gets the what, the where, the when, the how, and what you get to do, when you get to see, who gets to see the kids win. So there's a lot of conversation that goes into these things to make them even get to the point where it gets in front of the president. So Paramount wants this to go through pretty significantly. So what have they done? They paid him $60 million basically outright. They were well within their rights as a news organization to say, go fuck yourself. Court probably backed them up on it because they can, say like, hey, we really didn't do anything here, and we're news. But no, they paid him off, basically bribe money. Buy it in another form, because you can't literally bribe the president. You have to call it something else. Then the Colbert firing took place, and it wasn't just Colbert firing, it was the end of the Late Show, which has been on like a bajillion years, and that it's a legacy thing, just like the Tonight Show going on. So you had all of that kind of stuff, and it's like, okay, like if it was just one incident, you might not say anything about it necessarily, but also the executive producer of 60 Minutes, before these things happened, before he got the payout, before Colbert, came out and essentially said, for shame, you're bending the knee to the president. You're doing it for disingenuous reasons. You undercovered and disappeared stories about the genocide in Palestine. You did you bit by bit doing all of these little things to sort of, that he would find favorable. Not necessarily like they had a deal and like he was like, you do these things for me. This is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. They're just kind of combing through things like, maybe if we get rid of this, like, or this certain South Park episode, or if we get rid of this, this, that, and the other thing, because this company owns all these other little feeder companies, and that's already, it's a mega deal. When I say it's basically everything you see, it's basically everything you see. So they have been now, by their own people, accused of manipulating what people see. And 60 Minutes, another kind of, if you will, an illustrious news program that's been on for decades, had always had a pretty decent reputation in terms of factuality, or that they could back up what they were saying. I won't say necessarily like the truth, because that's a little misleading, but like they could, if they said something, they could usually back it up. They're like, oh, we said this thing, but this person, this source is the one who said this thing on camera, or like, oh no, we looked up the document, we did a FOIA here, and now we've got the proof. And then in their news stories, they kind of say that, like, okay, if you don't think this is real, here are the documents, here's the receipts. So when they start doing these little bits and pieces of things, that were and then bits and pieces, like literally paying him money, a bribe by another name, and then the firing of Colbert, because Colbert basically spends like 65 minutes just doing bad Trump impressions, and then like spends about 5 minutes with a guest, right? So and it's very obnoxious and bad. So on the surface, a lot of like people are like, well, good, that show fucking sucks, it should get canceled. If a good show can get canceled in one season because an algorithm decided that it shouldn't be on the air, why does this dog shit show stay on the air for so long? And ordinarily on a legacy show, they would just replace the host, but they decided to kill the entire franchise, which was really overkilling the situation. So at this point, with all these things starting to add up, it really shows that they were trying to, butter Trump up essentially to get him to approve this merger. And it kind of remains to be seen if they will continue to do these things, because they've been called out now by their own people. They've been noticed in the news, like other people have noticed. Now they've got other. Now it's a big topic of conversation, and all of the other late night show hosts come to his defense. And there's a lot of things that have just been, in the comments, Time Traveler mentions what happened to the rehearsal. That is owned by HBO, which I think is a subsidiary of Paramount, but I'm not super sure. But other companies have done it too. But yeah, they're just disappearing things. Like there are a lot of companies that are just disappearing things, kind of for the same reasons, because they want to do business, and then if they have to have the ultimate say so by the president, then they're obviously going to do stuff. Say if it was a couple of years ago, they might have taken away like anti-Biden type stuff to try to get him to approve. I mean, like everything else notwithstanding, I'm just saying, like hypothetically here, like had that been a thing, that would have, kind of followed the same suit. So it's easily trackable that they're fucking around. It's they're trying to win his favor, and they're doing it at the expense of what they're showing to people in terms of news. And that, like I said, it's always been basically a well-respected 60 Minutes, basically a well-respected news outlet for generations at this point, so to start messing around with it in a public way, not to say that it never happened before in all this time, but to mess around with it in a public way has really rubbed people the wrong way. People who have been, faithfully watching it and really taking their cues from it, which again, it is corporate news. They are okay. I would give them an okay rating in terms of backing up what they say, but just to have their own, people come out and say like, hey, they're messing around here. They're messing with the integrity of the show. They're messing with the integrity of the news. They're messing with the integrity of what you see, and they're manipulating the narrative. Kind of open the door, showing like, hey, here's what's going on. So Colbert, I don't care about. He's gonna turn into like some sort of liberal god at this point. Martyrdom, like all the way. Like I couldn't care less about him. His writers, I also couldn't care less about. They have been, fanning the flames of empire this whole time, right? Just because they've been on one side of it or the other, but they're not doing anybody any good. And then entertainment wise, obviously it's no good. But the idea is like that, just plays right into all of this. And then while they're going to be catching him also at a bad time. So maybe they cancel, maybe they had some more Maxwell Epstein stories that they aren't showing. You don't know what they've got that they've decided to cut already. So that is another big part of all of this. So there you have that. That's something to keep your eye on. It really didn't seem at first like, oh, they canceled a really bad show. Well, they canceled a franchise. That's kind of odd. But like your first reaction is like, oh yeah, well that show sucked, and no big surprise there. But then there's more going on behind the scenes of that, and I don't think it's going to stop there. And I'm glad that there are a lot of eyes on it, both like civilian and like in industry people, and a lot of people calling attention to this. To now people are paying attention because I think everybody, like a lot of liberals and a lot of the left and anti-Trump, like the non-Trump Republicans, are like looking for something. They could be like they're looking for the big gotcha. Like the whole time this has been going on, and a couple of times he did almost get gotcha, but it didn't work out. So I think that also is like he's flying a little too close to the sun on this stuff, because he got to the idea that like, oh, I'm untouchable, right? So that's basically where we have landed in terms of that. So we will see how that all unfolds. But that deal, I can't see not going through. I really don't feel like he's going to say no when the time actually comes, when they've gotten everything sorted out. And that causes a great big problem because on its own, if that merger goes through, then that merger essentially means company sold to other company, not necessarily we're married and we're buddies now, like we're going to decide together. No, it means everything that Paramount ever had or owned or whatever goes to Skydance, and then they get to decide what gets removed from their app, They get to decide what goes on the app. They get to decide like every single aspect about it. And then when it comes to seeing everything from the news to 90s Nicktoons, then they own like that entire spectrum, that entire catalog of material, and then get to make the decisions henceforth. So it is a much bigger problem than it looked like initially. Subject change. Okay, I think enough about that. Just keep your eyes open and listen to it as people talk about it. See where this goes, because that, anytime anybody's paying attention, it's harder to do things, and that's the one really good benefit we have about everything being illuminated in the digital age. Is our eyes are on it at this point. So, speaking of more government, which I said that I would, and again, we're stuck on having to talk about bad people and the things that bad people are doing, and sometimes those bad people have good ideas, and that sucks. And that leads us to a lot of what's been going on. The theater between AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene, which has been primarily just theater, political theater. They're both meant to be like the firebrands of their own sides. AOC is like by know nothings. They think that she's left, and she's nowhere near it. She is a through and through Democrat with CIA ties, hence the nickname. That's not like made up or anything or disparaging. It's facts. That's how she essentially came into being. Like one day nobody's ever heard of her, the next day she's there in everybody's face. With this misleading backstory. So then we also have on the other side of that a through and through Christian white nationalist, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a piece of shit in a different way. So we've got piece of shit versus piece of shit, and they're both meant to serve the same function, which is be the firebrand of their team, and distract you, like masters of misdirection here, right? But because of this, she's kind of having a moment, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because now, in the same way that we've talked about Tucker Carlson, these like hard right people who are shitbags have somehow said stuff that is clear and makes sense to everybody. Tucker Carlson in his interview with Ted Cruz, and he's like, "Hey, I've been other places, and it's really nice other places, and it fucking sucks here. Why is everybody starving and we have no roads?" And Ted Cruz is like, "Vacation," and so you can watch it. But and then when he said it recently at an event, a Republican event, that any American that had served in the Israeli army should lose their citizenship. Correct. At the very least. Just goes on to say that, like he's making the right points. And, I fucking hate it. And we all do, like all of us do, but you can't ignore that when somebody is making the right points. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, over this past week, she puts out an amendment that she's trying to get passed that says stop funding Israel. Stop it. No more Iron Dome nonsense, like no more funding to them. And she made all the right points, that we're giving them all these weapons to do fuck all with, right? And and then we're giving them all kinds, tons and tons of money to pay for their educations, to pay for their health care, which are things that we don't even have here. And if we go back a little bit back to the big bill, she did vote for it. But she also came back later and said, "Hey, this got rammed through so fast. I didn't see the part about no regulating AI for 10 years. Like that's wrong." So again, she at the wrong time on the wrong way. She came around to the right point. I digress on that for now because I could go on about AI, anti-AI forever. But that's where we kind of are landing. We're getting these horrible people who we would fundamentally disagree with on everything and are ashamed are living in the same, they're breathing the same air that we are breathing. But we have to be like, oh, good, great. You made a really excellent point. So she's saying these things, and I'm not going to get super into this because I really haven't investigated it. But I did hear, which might have been fake, I did hear that, like, I don't know if this is true, so maybe chat knows about this, or, but I'm saying this right now. I don't know if this is absolutely true. But I did hear somebody say recently that it is commonplace that Israelis many of them don't have any like actual employment. They don't need to, because they get so much subsidy money, and so much wealth comes through, that they just end up with, however it's done. I don't know if that's exactly true. I don't know where exactly the money comes from, like if they're literally getting like dividend checks or something. But just, I think that the country, or the settler colony, is so wealthy itself, and they subsist off of so much American money and funds and resources, that they're not real. There's no real, not a lot of work being done. I guess they don't really have to work to live. Not the way that we are threatened to, if you lose your job, you go homeless and you die here, right? So they get the free health care and this, that, and the other. So that part I'm not super sure about, but we do know that the others are a factor. But if that is also a factor, then that even strengthens the argument. Not that it needs to be, but of what she's making, of stop giving our money. Has anybody walked out their front door ever, in America right now? Everything is an absolute shambles, and it's not theoretical. It's not some ideal of oh, we wish things were better, but they're actually fine, but they're not. No, it's youth right in front of our eyes. You can see just the fact that companies are allowed to run rampant in this country completely. No, there's no oversight. There's no investigating. They're not quality checking food anymore. A kid just fell into a meat grinder. A literal kid, a 19-year-old, fell into a meat grinder at a food processing plant. Don't ask me how that happens. A whole ass human falls into a meat grinder. If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be a 19-year-old, which shows you exactly why they should not be doing those kinds of jobs. So, but that's fully allowed. And we go back to the days of in the pandemic, when the poultry companies were taking bets on how many people were going to die that worked the floor, right? And you know who that works those jobs? Immigrants, essentially slaves, that we're throwing out of the country, right and left. And so, we have all of these massive problems here that are right in front of our eyes. And I don't need to run down the whole list, because we all know, we've been over it, every podcaster, every leftist, every talking point, can go over it. You all know it yourselves. We all know what the problems are, and none of that is getting addressed, and everything is getting so much worse all the time. Things you didn't even realize could get worse have gotten worse. We now use drones to do advertisements in the sky. That is beyond the worst thing I can possibly think of. That's Blade Runner shit. Nothing is worse than where we are headed, where we are, and where we are headed. At this point, millennials kind of are blazing the trail on this, and then the generations behind us, we don't have futures. Right? We have no futures. We're living in survival mode. We have done our entire lives. So our futures are like suicide. That's what we've got. There's no future for it. And there's no sustainability in a planet that's dying, and the acceleration of that has happened tenfold. Nobody's talking green anymore. That's off the table. So, we have all of these horrible problems that are going on at all levels, even just annoyances advertising. I heard something the other day about in-game advertising. I'm not a gamer, I can't speak to that, but if you already bought the goddamn thing, you should not see advertisements inside the game. That's common knowledge. So we're talking from level of annoyance level to critical Earth is dead level. So we are in, a really bad place with no future and nowhere to go. And we thought maybe 10 years ago, you wouldn't have guessed things could get this bad this fast. So what's going to happen in 10 more when all this stuff is left unchecked? So that essentially is not all of that falls into her amendment that she was trying to pass, but it does show you the level of absurdity and the level of hubris that goes into America trying to use Israel as a mechanism to control that region of the world, a la Greater Israel, which is not a secret anymore. When we first started talking about it, nobody had heard about it. We sounded crazy. Anybody talking about it sounded like, yeah, I'm sure that's what they're trying to do. And a lot of this has run people, just regular everyday people, the people you see at the grocery store, the whoever's your relatives, whatever's. It took so long to come around to the fact that Israel was carrying out a genocide, because they fundamentally couldn't understand that the people that seemed to less the least likely on the planet to do that to someone else who had been famously genocided just a few decades earlier would be the ones that were doing it to someone else. So it took a lot of time and a lot of loose baby faces and pictures and videos to get into people to break into people's minds. Okay, so Nila Nostrum just said, added to the list of circumstantial evidence that we are led by aliens instead of human beings. Human-sized meat grinders. Hey, no, you're not. I don't think you're wrong about that one. That's like, what else is going into those meat grinders? I don't know. Like, I really, you can't. It's not like you can. Like if you're gonna like butcher a cow or something, like you do it into pieces. You can't just pop the whole guy in there. I don't know, maybe for animal food. I'm not sure. I agree with you. Like, I don't, like, why do we need meat grinders that big that a whole ass human can just drop into one somehow? Like that, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, actually. I'm a vegetarian, so I'm not sure. I would think my first thought would go to is if there are ones that big that a whole ass human could drop into and die, get meat grinded. God, Jesus. That would have to be like throwing big enough parts of like subpar butcher animals like cows, pigs, for animal feed. That would be my guess. But again, maybe we are the feed, the Soylent Greenest people, right? So yeah, good point there. questionable situation for sure. But I don't know. I really don't. But unfortunately, we're like that. We're living in that that onion meme, the onion, where it's tragic, worst person makes excellent point. That's a paraphrase. I don't know the exact, but you know what I'm talking about. We've all seen it. We shared it. But that's where we are. So, in conclusion on that amendment, I guess you know where that went. 422 against 6-4, and AOC was not one of them. Who's supposed to be the freedom fighter, do the right thing. Yeah, right? That reputation was propaganda. She was never going to do that. She was not there for that purpose. She was there to look like something was going on. A useful idiot. And that's where we are. And she took a beating online, as well she should have. And I don't want people to forget this, because I don't want to see her climbing through the ranks any faster or with, any less resistance than possible. We know that obviously voting means nothing, and what the will of the people means nothing. And that's what we really need to pivot away from and navigate against. And that's really the whole fundamental. It's really, you'd think that it sounds like a fun word, but it's not a fun word. But that's really the essence of this show here. That's really what we want to get across to people, that up is down, black is white here. If the bad people are saying the right things, then the system doesn't matter. And if you can vote on something all day long and then somebody says no, I can't remember exactly where it was. Maybe it was Minnesota, but a couple of weeks ago, they were supposed to pass I'm sure this has happened in more than one place, but I just saw it. But now it's there and it's gone. The specifics, but there was somewhere where they were supposed to pass a raise of minimum wage that was voted on by voters as a ballot initiative. Okay, when they voted in their presidential election, or something like this, whatever it was, they voted on it, raise the minimum wage, right? So then the mayor or the governor of either the state or the town, I'm not, because I can't remember where it was, but just decided, no, we're not doing that. The end. Okay, so if you have leadership that can do that either at the state level or the town level or the national level, you do not have leadership. You do not have people working for you. Those are dictators, okay? That is what a dictator does. They do not, if you're not serving the will of the people, you are not doing what you were put there to do, and therefore your position and your what you are is nothing. But if you have control of other people and get to decide what happens to other people, that it flagrantly goes against their will, then that is a dictatorship on every single level. So, and that is what we really, really need people to think about, you know, in all of this. Really need people to think about what's going on and what this amounts to. Because again, maybe just only 10 years ago, we wouldn't have liked the way things were going, but we wouldn't necessarily have thought it would fall into fascism this quickly. And we used to be warned, and not so much in our generation, like millennial or younger, but like the previous generations were warned constantly about the domino effect. The domino effect was an anti-communist propaganda tactic, which was I wonder why this is, because it's actually fucking true. If a country falls to communism, then all the countries around it will continue to fall to communism until it takes over the entire world. Now, I wonder why that would be. I wonder why people would want to fall to communism. What would be the answer on that one? I just can't figure it out. Maybe I should go look at some videos of China for a while and enjoy seeing some people live happily, you know, for a minute. So there's that. So that's what we really need to do. That is the headline of every show. And when we're getting into these stupid little arguments about Trump and this and Trump and that, you know, that's why people hate him so much, is because he is the one that is getting to decide for people. But a lot of these people were silent when it was Biden was the one that was getting to decide for people, because we still cast the Democrats as good guys and the Republicans as bad guys, because the Republicans are fine with being the heel. You know, this is all a theatric puppet show to try to distract you away from these people carving out massive riches for themselves, a la war, and not even in the basic smallest level of a pay raise in one small area who voted for it could that even come through. So that is a system that is rotten to the core. And if we don't nullify it, if we don't, you know, create our own coalitions of people, you know, like rent strikers do, if we don't get some leadership coming out of this, I don't care what you want to call it, I don't care what you want to call yourself, but like a people's style union, something that people just by dint of being a person who lives here can join, and then if it function like a union. That is what we need if we're going to get anywhere at any point, because that's how you organize credit strikes, that's how you organize general strikes, that's how you get anywhere. And right now, yes, sometimes you do have to vote in a system that is entirely broken, but then you ultimately, you know, get bit in the ass, because later down the road you find out, oh, the guy I voted for, he or she or they or whatever is just went along with the pack. It was fake. It was a lie. So that's where we keep ending up. So how many times do we need to repeat this over and over again before we rise up? Because we are out of time. This planet is dead. Like, it will survive. The people will not. You know. So and our own. When you get started to get killed by your own people, like, we're getting cannibalized by our own government on a regular basis. And that is the state of play. That is the standard of doing. Now, there's a big problem there, and people really need to come on, sheeple, take off the hats, right? The aluminum foil hats right now. I'm not trying to condescend. I'm saying that, like, no, you really need to start making these observations on your own and realizing that whether you call yourself a leftist or you call whatever you call yourself, those titles are meaningless if we are not able to come together on certain unifying points. And, you know, like, okay, I just openly said on the show multiple times, we are agreeing with Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene on shit. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit here and say their names. I don't want to even pretend they exist in the world. But that's the fact of it. And that is, like, basically what you have to do when you are an adult person, just like at work. Like, you have to work with the people you don't like, but you have to do it. Right. And that's what we are in a situation of. So we have got to figure out a way to come together and not just watch people like, I did this, I did that, mutual aid, yay, Gaza, yay, yay, yay. No, all these points. You know, what's the George Bush Sr. had that 1,000 points of light speech that he would give, coming together. Yeah, we are a lot of us have a lot of good ideas, and a lot of us agree on a lot of things. So get rid of who cares about what you're calling yourself or other people, and let's agree on the important matters. And there's a little bit more I wanted to say on that just really quickly, because we are seeing this play out again, and people are falling for the same sort of situation again. That we're getting re-AOC'd with Zoran Mamdani. He has turned into, like, the ultimate. New York showed up for him, like, absolutely showed up for him. Basically a nobody, not like a, you know, rags to riches nobody. He was pretty, you know, well connected. But he now, it's like he is turned into like this face of socialism. He is not a socialist. Put an underline under that. A democratic socialist is not a socialist. I just went on about don't put labels on shit, but that's the fact of the matter. A democratic socialist is Bernie and AOC. They, before anything else, are Democrats, and they will work with, and they will idealize, and they will bond with the Democrats, and they will move with the Democrats. Had he run as an independent, that might be a different story. But he has become somehow the face of socialism, who is, getting maligned right and left, and seeing people unite behind him was really excellent, right? I won't disagree with that. But if you can do that, then you can get in on something else that's going to actually move something forward, or contend or work against what's working against us. It's people aligning for the wrong reasons. So I don't want you guys to get all your hopes up thinking he's going to be like what everybody else wasn't. He is going to fall directly in line. He's already hired, a handler, a well-known Democratic handler, and you could say, is he playing the game, or is he playing the game, or is he like from the inside type of a thing? Like, how do I do this? But he's not independent. He's not a socialist. He's not a communist. He is constantly getting branded as such by everybody on every side. Either he's hopes and dreams, or he's vile, evil, communist Muslim man, right? Okay, that's the same argument in a different color, right? So don't put your hopes and dreams into this guy. And when you see people on the left going, he's not it, that's true. Now, that being said, there was another primary in Minnesota, which has a big Somalian contingency, and that's where Ilhan Omar comes out of. And we just saw the results of that, which is, and I'm going to butcher his name, and I apologize ahead of time, so I'm just not sure what the pronunciation is. We saw another so-called socialist win the nomination, Omar Fateh. I'm not exactly sure, so apologies on that one. Me dum-dum. Again, a Somalian man, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, I didn't have a ton of time to follow up on that. I just wanted to make the connection. Like, okay, so am I another leftist blowing this out of proportion by saying Mamdani isn't it, or is he it? And now we have another person who's entered the chat that somewhat embodies the same ideals to a degree, and let me read this comment real quick. Solid opposition in Syria. Nilo Nostrum says, I heard on RBN the other day that Mamdani's wife has connections to the anti-Assad opposition in Syria. Haven't fact-checked it, but that's a bit of a red flag. There are red flags, and nobody's going to be perfect. But again, this is propping up a broken system. So we can't look at that, like, we can't get into the purity politics so much, and that's not even kind of a necessary argument. It's nobody's ever going to be perfect. The perfect idea is moving away from this system. So yes, I understand the impetus and the want of contributing to something where you don't know that there can be an alternative. But every empire that's ever fallen in history, there was an alternative. The alternative is empire fall. Okay, so that's where we need to get our heads in, to stop necessarily putting all of our hopes and dreams on people like Mamdani and saying he's going to do it, because what happened with Bernie? What happened with AOC? What happened with the squad? All of them except for Rashida Tlaib routinely votes with Democrats, and they're not. They got voted out like Cori Bush, and they're they're either steamrolled, or they are just fall right in line. So electoral politics, this not even having at the bare minimum ranked choice voting is a mess of a problem. And it's just been a way to figure out how to exploit that problem further and further and further for the personal gain of the top echelon of society and global society. And that's why we're a never-ending war. And when this and like, okay, well, we didn't do you. Come on. Okay, sorry about that. If you can hear me, I don't know. Am I coming through? Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Apologies. You can't watch a social contract show without there being major problems. But to conclude on that is, I'm really troubled by this. Yes, thank you for letting me know. Apologies, and I hope that I'm back now. Let's just not put all of our like our hopes and dreams into the dream basket and follow suit with the same issue. And now, quickly, one more thing I wanted to mention in the terms of community building. Something that I want to see more of in this world, not just because I would hopefully, yes, thank you, hopefully benefit from a little bit. But again, like I said, Jared, co-host Jared, Mr. Mayor, is very talented musician. Sells his, performs, sells his music. I'd like to think that I'm a talented writer and artist. And there's many independent creators out there. And a lot of us are most of the time our materials are reduced to content, where you just keep scrolling, you don't even like it, you're just like, oh, nice, whatever. And we don't get and again, I'm not necessarily just saying this just because I am one, but I want to see more community building through supporting independent creators. And that doesn't just mean artists, that means people who make artisanal foods, and like, or people that are have a small, are doing small things, opposed to like the great big companies. Like a lot of people are turned away from them because their product might be a little more expensive, or I've never tried it before, I don't want to spend that kind of money. Like, oh, I don't need to go buy a handmade toy, I can just go get something off of Amazon. Well, of course you can. Or I don't want to go buy that book for these kids, I'll just go buy something that got a high rating on Amazon, right? Okay, well, you're missing out. That's the big thing that people don't realize. It's not asking you to do something you're not comfortable with necessarily. It's just asking you to like, okay, if you're serious about mutual aid, for instance, and if you're serious about creating a new kind of world, and like, obviously, like a small time artist is not like necessarily making like a great big video game that you want to play. Like, you're still going to subscribe to the things that you want to do and stuff. But all of those things are so corrupt and so like nasty, and bad companies, ugly people. And I'm really tired of that argument of like, okay, you sell things and you have a business, but you're a socialist, you're a communist. Yes, as a matter of fact, commerce does take place in communist countries. I know that's wild, hard for people to understand, but it is driven by values and producing a quality product that is, not looking at the bottom line first and trying to scam as much money out of people as possible with the garbage product. That's again why you might pay a little bit more for a bar of soap that someone handmade on their farm than you would if you went and bought like a box of 5 at the grocery store, right, from like a leading company. So this is something I really hope that people will take into more consideration, especially as we get. We're not there yet. Nobody wants to talk about the buying season, but we will be getting there faster than you want it to happen. But I would really like to see people start supporting smaller businesses. We get that Small Business Saturday. That's bullshit. because like a lot of, if you see a credit card commercial advertising Small Business Saturday, that is not a genuine argument there. But we're all on social media, and if you see somebody, peddling their artwork, or saying, hey, buy my product, my little my hand lotion that I made, it's natural or whatever, take a second look, okay? And not just that, like maybe you don't have the money to buy something, but you could share. That's a big thing in the artistic community that we get really frustrated about. Is that like, yeah, okay, a like is nice, thank you, I appreciate that. That's like a little worthless tip, but it's nice, right? But if you share with, even if you've got like 5 followers, if you share, then you're improving the chances of someone getting to us that like, I was like, oh my God, I love this stuff. This is the greatest stuff ever. And then that person gets to continue to make those things and more and expand on them because they are making sales. Small businesses, small creators rely entirely on scam systems. The way businesses work is scam, because like if you publish through Amazon, they still get the lion's share of your money. If you publish artwork on like Redbubble or something, like they still get the lion's share of the money. So like, yeah, you might be subbing to a larger corporation still, then you're like, how do I get away from this? But at least a portion of it does go to the creator, who is then able to continue to do those things, right? If you want nice content in the world, if you want to see better things that aren't commercial driven, that aren't going to sit here and aggravate you with commercials all day long, that's who you need to be looking towards. And I don't think people are doing it maliciously. I just don't think that they realize that there are alternatives out there, because you got to kind of look for them, right? So I would like to close by saying that I hope, and I'm really bad at marketing, because I'm just like, I want to just make the things. I don't want to talk about it and and try to sell myself, because I hate advertising. I hate it. But I feel like if it's a small outlet that they need your help, and you should look at go on to places like Redbubble, go on to places like other forums. Maybe if you're like, oh, I'm looking for a new book to read, I don't know what I'm into, then go maybe on Substack, or go on Tumblr is a great source. Look and see what they have to offer other people before you make the decision to go buy another Stephen King book or something. Like, that's all I'm trying to say, is there are alternatives out there that just don't have the clout, and they don't have the advertising budget to be like, hey, right in your face. And if you appreciate that they can't do that, but you still want good quality stuff, and if you are like me, very, very tired of being expected to pay for the remake of the prequel, of the sequel, of the reboot, of the do-over, but you want something original and you're tired of all of that shit, please look for independent creators, independent content makers. You will find music, you will find artwork, you will find literary works of all kinds, everything you could imagine. You will find everything that you could find mainstream made or created. You can find an independent creator barely hanging on, really just needing that. And if you go to a place like Redbubble, people don't understand Redbubble. It's not like buy my art. Yeah, you can buy a piece of art poster or whatever of an image from an artist that you like, but you can also buy that on a shirt. You can buy it on a sticker. You can buy it on a little button to wear on your vest of buttons. You could buy bed sets, all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm not trying to get on the soapbox here. I like the idea of putting emphasis on what I'm trying to build. And we're trying to coalition build. We're trying to community build ultimately with this. We're trying to build a better society. And that's like when you participate in mutual aid, or you send a little bit of money to here or there or whatever, but you don't use a big charity. It's just like a GoFundMe or something. GoFundMe takes a piece of that. So that's unfortunate. But you are still ultimately helping someone else in a more direct way. And if it comes down to something that you like, music or what have you, if you pay them, they can afford to keep making it and maybe even like keep their lights on while they do it. So if you're going to spend money on something, which I know nobody has, and I understand completely, go, buy it from, if you can, buy it from a farmer's market. I don't want to come off ableist here. I'm just saying, like, if you can, find something in your wheelhouse, find something. If you're going to buy a book, maybe do a little research on some independent writers in the genre you're looking for first. Just go a little bit extra out of your way than just being like, sounds good, click buy, and basically all I want to say on that. And I will make an effort here to talk a little bit. I'm kind of out of time, but I will make an effort to talk a little bit more about my upcoming book. I don't want to throw it in your face or anything like that, but it is coming. It's called The Big Bad Wolf. It'll be out November 28th, and it is scary, and but it's not like horror. It pulls on the classic genres of horror and literature. Some of my most favorite inspirations for things, because I'm not a horror person. I like scary, but I don't like horror. And it's got a mystery to solve therein. Okay, yeah. And Nathan just commented that in particular, the furry fandom it's all about supporting independent artists and it's communities focused and it's primarily on art. Fantastic. I love to hear that. So yeah, great. I want to hear that. I want to see that. Again, if you participate in something like that not necessarily furry, but like maybe gaming or something, like look for the person, like when you go there, the person, like you buy the company who made the branded dice, or you could buy this person's special dice that they made and they need the money. So if you want your money to go to something other than a corporation, if you're just tired of supporting corporations in a big way, and you want a community build, there's no better way than just sharing the work of other people that you like, seeking it out, talking about it with friends, having a book club about it or whatever, wearing somebody's rad design on your t-shirt, like just let's support each other. I really want to see more of that in the world. And that is something you can't control. When we live in a society where you can't control anything and everything is against you, that is something you can control. So I have talked for over an hour. My voice did not go out. My internet did, but my voice didn't. So I hung in there. Next week, we should have Mr. Mayor Jared back for a pretty good stretch. And we will see about whatever fresh hell is going on there. But in the meantime, take care of each other and yourselves. Try to take it easy as best as you can. I wish the best for you all. And let's work together and flood our socials with some good creator content. Let me see what's out there. Show me. I want to see it. So take care, everyone. And remember, you can always reach out to us on our Twitter at #1 social contract. It's doop doop right there. And you can DM us there. We're on Twitch, Twitter, Blue Sky, Rumble, YouTube. Rumble and YouTube have our archives of all of our past episodes. And we're slow to gain followers because I think a lot of our stuff kind of gets throttled or not prioritized, like a big surprise. The large companies don't want to platform that. And we don't market, we don't advertise really. We just kind of get out there. So word of mouth, this is another independent production. So thank you for joining and hanging out with me today in the clubhouse. I've loved it. I've loved hearing your comments. I appreciate you all very much. And make sure to join me next week and when we welcome Jared back and maybe we'll have some good news to report on for once. So take care, everybody. Take care of yourselves, each other. Have a good week.